Call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. as the clock just switched. The first matter is where is the quorum of the permanent building committee and the voting members of the school building committee. So I'd like to start with the administrative actions. The first is a review of the meeting minutes. Shane, you have the first thing on of May 6th. Those were approved on June 10th, so we don't have to approve them again.
Okay.
So the first thing is to approve the minutes of June 10th, 2021.
Before I start, Joe, could we do a roll call? Because I have a list of about 40 people. I want to make sure I get everybody. Would that be appropriate?
Well, just click on participants, so you'll see them, right?
Well, I'm trying to write minutes as well. All right, I'll figure it out.
Well, I'm looking at the participants.
Yeah.
There's yourself, there's Tom Stapleton, Wayne Hardacre, Ray Thompson, Tom Galvin.
I see everybody, Joe. Yeah. All right. That's fine. I'll figure it out. Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen. It's the June 10th minutes, meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the May 6th, the June 23rd meeting minutes, please.
Sorry, it's June 10th, Philip.
First is the June 10th, Phil.
Sorry, I couldn't, it's really small. June 10th. I move to approve the June 10th meeting minutes.
Is there a second? Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Anybody opposed? All in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Next meeting minutes of June 23rd, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the June 23rd meeting minutes.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous. The next is a review of the June 2021 invoice from Left Field. Do I have a motion?
Do you need the amount in the motion?
Yeah, it's
$12,000.
$12,000, Phil.
I move to approve the June 30th, 2021 invoice from Left Field in the amount of $12,000.
Any discussion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tom?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chip? And Chip is silent.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. Sorry.
I think that's everyone in the building committee. Did I miss anyone? Janine couldn't make it tonight. All right. I approve it. It's unanimous. All right, Shane.
Thank you.
The main purpose of the meeting tonight is discuss the proposals that were presented. If people want to talk about the various proposals that hopefully people have reviewed, that's great. But what you cannot do is you cannot rank them. You cannot say, I have this person first, this is second. I would suggest that, well, if anybody wants to discuss them, that you say, I like them or I don't like them, and maybe give the reasons. Everybody understand that? Because the MSBA does not allow us to rank them.
Okay.
If you wish to comment on the various proposals, Shane, why don't you just go through?
Sure, yes. So just quickly, just so people are aware, the three representatives that will sit on the designer selection panel represent Wakefield will be Doug Lyons, the superintendent, Amy Ward from the school committee, and Stephen Mayo, the town administrator. Right now, we're tentatively scheduled to go to the designer selection committee on August 3rd to review these 10 proposals, and then on August 17th, we would interview a shortlisted group of designers, probably 3 to 4 interviews on the 17th. As Joe said, we can discuss the proposals that were submitted. They were all sent out electronically for you guys to review them. I did get comments back from some people. I'll discuss those in a moment. but we cannot rank the designers at this meeting. The ranking can only take place at the designer selection panel, and the only people who can rank them are the 3 representatives in the rest of the designer selection panel. So we can discuss tonight. The 3 folks from Wakefield will take those comments with them to the designer selection panel, but we cannot rank the designers. So it was a good response. We got 10 firms who submitted proposals. All of these I'm familiar with. Some of them I've worked directly with on school projects before. Some of them I haven't, but certainly all of them I'm familiar with them. Arrow Street Moody Nolan is a joint venture. Denisco Design, Dromey Roseanne Anderson, Feingold Alexander, Durham Whittier, a joint venture. JCG Architects, Mount Vernon Group, SAM, DLR Group are a joint venture. SMMA, Tepay, and William Rowan. So I did get some comments, Joe, if you want me to talk about them, and then we can open it up to the rest of the committee.
Well, why don't we just open it up and
Sure.
go from
Okay.
there?
Yep.
Jonathan, you have your hand up?
I do. Thank you, Joe. I just had a question. Shane, could you maybe talk a little bit about how the design review committee will be evaluating these submissions? Are there particular criteria that they're looking for, or is there a set of questions that you would expect them to ask, just to maybe frame a little bit more context around the process that the panel will go through in terms of narrowing down the 10 submissions?
So the initial meeting, John, on August 3rd, we'll review all 10 of them. The designers, it's a public meeting, so the designers can certainly attend that, but they won't be allowed to comment on their submission. They won't be asked any questions on their submission. So the first round, when we review the 10 of them, will be based on a designer selection panel review of the submissions. They'll review that those submissions based on previous work that these designers have done in Massachusetts and other school buildings, current workload, how much work they all have at the moment, if they have the capacity to take on another big high school project like ours. They look at the teams, not just the prime designer and the lead architect, but also the engineers, the mechanical, electrical engineers, the educational programmer. All of these companies have to propose a specialist educational programmer. They'll look at who that is. They'll look at landscape, structural, all the consultants, and they'll make a decision on that. There's no scoring per se on how they'll look at these after they discuss all 10 at the meeting. The members of the designer selection committee will be allowed rank their top 3. The way they do it, John, is if, say, Doug Limes ranks ABC Architects 1, EFG Architects 2, and XYZ Architects 3, his first choice will get 3 points, his second choice will get 2 points, and his third choice will get 1 point. At the end of that, when they've done that with all 13 members or whatever the attendance is at the meeting, they'll add those points up, and usually they'll pick the top 3 or 4 companies to invite back for interview. So that's the first phase. It's really not, the architects don't get a opportunity to present. It's the second phase, that meeting on August 17th, when the architects will be given a chance to present their qualifications. We'll work with MSBA to come up with a set of questions that will be sent to the architects prior to that meeting, and the architects will get to do a live presentation interview based on those questions, and then it will open up to a Q&A after that. Following that, it'll be another scoring where everybody gets to rank their top 3, and whoever gets the highest points will be asked to submit a proposal for the project.
An answer, Jonathan?
Thank you. That's
I
helpful.
hope you got it all. Yeah.
Great. Thank
Anything
you.
else, Jonathan?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Phil, you have your hand?
Oh, that actually worked? Okay.
Yeah, I guess it did. I can see. Good work, Phil.
I'm gonna try that in my family. People, maybe
All right,
people
yeah,
start
don't
listening.
try it. Don't try it. It's not worth it.
Just a stupid technical question, because the request for proposal seemed very specific, and the fact that Mount Vernon's cover letter was for the city of Somerville and not for the town of Wakefield, like, will the SBA see that? And like,
So,
we're dealing
so
with
they
teachers and
did-
education, so I
yeah.
want to make sure rules are being followed here.
well, the electronic copies I sent out were from the electronic copies they submitted on thumb drives to me. I downloaded them and uploaded the files to all of you to review. In their hard copy, they did actually have the correct cover letter.
Okay.
So
I just
I'm
didn't
not
want
sure
them
if it
to
was-
miss out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't want
so-
them over something stupid like that. So that's all.
Yeah, I see it as a minor clerical issue, but it won't be up to me. I'm sure the design and selection committee will comment on it, but I don't think it's a reason to eliminate them.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I just didn't know if the SBA would find that as a reason. So
No,
that
they
makes sense.
had the correct letter in the hard copy.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else wish to comment on the proposals?
Just a quick question on the DRA. Now that the fact that they're doing the Northeast Metro Tech work, is there any economies of scale there that we can pick up, given the fact that they're going to be, doing a lot of the design up and down the street, new entrance, new exit, abutting property?
I think there's advantages and disadvantages to that. I think certainly the advantages, the work that we'll probably end up doing on Hemlock, some of the civil work and landscape work, and the fact that they're working up the street will be an advantage. But we have a large high school project here. I would rather not see them share teams. I think our project is big enough that we should have a dedicated team, maybe at the principal or the partner in charge level, you would have the same people, but certainly at the day-to-day level, I think we're going to need a dedicated team. So there's advantages and disadvantages there.
Okay, thanks. And the other comment I had,
Shane?
Yep.
I would agree with you. I think there's more disadvantage to having a shared team. Certainly we had that same discussion when we were looking for an OPM, conflict of interest and who gets what and who gets what priority and stuff like that. So to me, that's a negative. I think for the group's knowledge, I mean, I know they read it, but Doran Whittier did the initial feasibility study, and I think they did a good job with it. So they are certainly somebody we know. However, they had to team together with another group because they've just been awarded a large project, is my understanding. And I think one of the reasons the MSBA has gone to this selection process is to spread the wealth, if you would, right? Shane, is that not true?
It is and it isn't, Chip. I mean, they review them all on their own merit. I think, when I answered Jonathan's question a minute ago, they do look at companies' workload. So that certainly plays into it, but it won't be, the deciding factor, but they do look at the workload and the capacity that these firms have to take on additional projects.
The other thing I'm curious about, Shane, if you could address, I mean, certainly we know Tepay. Tepay's done a couple projects in Wakefield. We know them well. There are some people in that organization that we would want to work with again. There are some that we possibly would not. Is there any, if they were to be picked, would there be an opportunity to negotiate team, or whatever team they're presenting is what we get?
I would have to defer and maybe get back to you on that, Chip. I know, we have substituted consultants in the past, sometimes as a conflict of interest or for some other reason. But certainly the designer selection committee will be reviewing these based on the teams that are submitted.
We've also successfully changed team members in the past before, so it is possible.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. I mean, and my last comment would be, you know, I thought the 10 were really pretty strong group that, you know, a lot of them have good experiences and, you know, could probably live with any one of them except maybe a couple, but see where this goes.
All right, thank you, Chip. Mr. Thompson, I think you had your hand up.
I did. I just had a quick question around the selection board meetings on August 3rd and August 17th. Those are public meetings, correct? But parts of them are closed to just the board itself. Can you maybe talk about that? Is the public welcome to go to those?
They are public, and that the public is invited to attend them. They have been doing them virtually through Zoom over the last year or 18 months. So you'll have to go to the MSBA website. There's a link there. Just ask to be invited. They'll send you the details. In terms of public participation, they don't normally open it up to public questions or comment. So while you're certainly very welcome to attend, they don't usually allow the public to ask questions or comment.
Thank you.
John, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Chip just mentioned. I wanted to ask about the Doran Whittier and Feingold kind of combination. Is that something, you know, Shane or Lynn, that, you know, you see often, or is this sort of a one-off scenario that you wouldn't expect to, you know, be harder to work with? I'm just wondering, you know, having to have kind of two companies that you'd be dealing with, is that seen as a negative or a positive at all? Or do you have any experience with this type of situation?
It's something we've seen before. You know, firms tend to partner, and some of the smaller firms who are trying to break into MSBA will partner with some of the bigger firms. I don't see it as an issue, but all three joint ventures did sort of set out the responsibility matrix in their submissions. I think you know, at the outset of the project, if one of these JVs were to get it, that we would need to clearly define exactly who is the point person, who's the lead person, and what the responsibilities of all the parties are. I don't see it as an issue, but it needs to be clearly defined if we do end up moving ahead with one of these.
Thanks.
All right, Jonathan, you had your hand up again.
Sure. Just another question. Thanks, Joe. You know, one of the things I noted when I was going through the proposals is, you know, you've got some of the applicants, obviously, that have done a lot of MSBA work, and some that haven't, that had some other sort of strong aspects of their submission. I wonder, Shane and the left field team, you know, if you could comment on sort of past experience in terms of working with, you know, firms that are newer to the MSBA process, and, you know, challenges that you've experienced, or you know, issues that you've seen that you know, might be you know, sort of potentially problematic as the panel's looking at some of the sort of newer entrants into the MSBA process.
Yeah, you know, as I said, the panel will look at the past record. You know, what schools these firms have done. A lot of these have been around for a long time. Some of them are a little bit newer and they don't have the experience. I would rather, you know, from my point of view and for the town's point of view, I would rather go with a more experienced firm, especially on a high school project like this. I've seen firms, they tend to start, you know, doing the elementary schools and middle schools and work their way up to the high schools, because high schools are a lot more technical. You've got science labs, you have auditoriums, you know, a lot of complicated systems that you maybe don't have in say, an elementary school. So I don't think it's an issue with any of these firms. Maybe one or two don't have the experience, but certainly in a high school, we want a firm that's done high schools before. It's a lot of specialist work for both the, you know, design team and their consultants. So I would push hard for somebody with extensive high school experience.
What about the MSBA experience? So certainly there's the high school experience, then there's the, have you done high schools through the MSBA process? And I guess that's the other side of that question that I'd love to hear your
right.
thoughts on.
Yeah, I mean, the MSBA is a rigorous process, and it's certainly more involved than if you weren't to go through that MSBA process. We've talked a little bit about, just during the feasibility phase that we're in, there's three major submissions to MSBA. So I think, firms with MSBA experience certainly have an advantage there. All of these firms, I think, except maybe for one or two of the joint ventures, have a lot of MSBA experience and have been through that process before. And certainly that's again, an advantage to firms who are submitting.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other comments, any other committee members want to discuss whether they like, don't like, or any other questions or comments? Okay, Shane, you had, some people sent some comments in. You want to just quickly go over them without, you don't have to name what they are. Just
Sure, yeah. So just, yeah, someone had sent in, they mentioned DOA and Feingold, Door and Whittier's proposals that they would seek to capitalize on the working knowledge in Wakefield. Both thought that there was good opportunities for them because of the relationships or the familiarity with the town. Someone said they like DRA's reference to web-based and online community engagement. Somebody mentioned JCJ's proposal. They talked about pushing the bounds in conventional learning. That person was happy to see that, but they also noted that it has to be a balance with constructing a school and maintaining a school after it's built. Someone mentioned Arrow Street, Moody Nolan, that it's Arrow Street had a lot of experience, but Moody Nolan didn't, and it looked like they were not from Massachusetts, or at least their head office wasn't. A couple of people mentioned the Mount Vernon group, the letter, which I said was actually the correct one in the hard copies. Somebody else mentioned the DRA, any benefits to working at the Northeast Metro Tech with ours. Someone asked about Tepay's experience with the town before and whether there was any evaluation done. I'll look into that. Usually there's an evaluation of the architect done after the project and submitted to the state, so I can find out if that evaluation was done back then. Somebody thought SMA Tepay and DRA were particularly strong, and they like Tepay, how they demonstrated an understanding of the MSBA process in their submittal. Someone said they were intrigued by the SAM DLR proposal, particularly in the community engagement. And then somebody said they weren't particularly excited by Arrow Street, JCJ, William Rawn. And again, that person also mentioned the Mount Vernon group, the incorrect letter in the electronic copy. So those were sort of a summary of the comments we got back, some of which we've discussed already tonight.
Okay. If anybody else would like to comment, now's the time. If not, we will move on to the public safety building.
Shane, do you want any feedback from the school side, or are you looking to move on?
If you have some now, Doug, I think as a representative, I'll be speaking to you certainly before August 3rd.
Okay.
But if you want to, make any comments tonight, I'm sure that they will be welcomed. Otherwise, we'll get together before that first meeting.
Okay.
Do you have any comments, Doug?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've looked at all of the designers. We've gone through the current work and what they are listing as their relevant work. We also have some familiarity with kind of the educational planning that they've done as a next phase with other schools and other communities. And so for us on the school side, it looks like really 4 of the 10 really stand out from our perspective, but and I think several have already been brought up in no particular order. I think Arrow Street, Moody Nolan.
Don't rank them, Doug.
No. They are not in any particular order, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm just.
I don't want to get us in trouble.
I'm just reading from the top of the list, Joe.
All right,
Right, in alphabetical order, right? And so Arrow Street and Moody Nolan has done some really exceptional work in regard to educational planning. And they've done a lot of work with MSBA and also local communities. Doran Whittier has worked with us on pre-feasibility and also updated our pre-feasibility and has done a pre-educational planning with us in 16 and then updated their financial stuff in 19. So we thought that was attractive because of the existing relationships. We had same questions that Chip had in regard to them partnering with Feingold. And the other two firms that we thought distinguished themselves in the application process is SMMA and Tepay, because of prior work that they've done, Tepay prior work that they've done in Wakefield. And we also thought that in regard to educational planning, SMMA distinguished themselves as well. So that's just, again, and from the top of the list, reading down in no particular.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Doug. Any other persons have any questions or comments? All right, well, as Shane indicated, the next step is going to be August 3rd when Mr. Lyons, Amy Wall, and Mr. Mayo appear at the designer selection meeting at the MSBA, and we'll know from there. All right, anything else? Anybody else have any questions or anything regarding the high school? Thank you very much for being here tonight. We're going to move on to the public safety building.
Thank you.
All right, regarding the public safety building, the permanent building committee has meeting minutes to June 10th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous. Next is the June 23rd, 2021 meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the June 23rd meeting minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any opposition? Unanimous. Next are the invoices.
I move that we approve the invoice number 8, OPM services, June 1st to June 30th for the left field for the sum of $10,000.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tom?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
Unanimous.
I move that we approve invoice number 6022023 for HKT Architects for designer services, June 1st through June 30th for the sum of $28,970.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Tom?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chip?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So the only question I have, Shane, is can you tell me what constriction services are?
Sure.
I move that we approve pre-construct number 2 for bond building for the sum of $4,000. They're a little constricted, but
They're a little
I'll go with the
constricted, but
I
4,000.
think that the site is very constricted. A constricted construction site.
For the services on June 1st through June 30th for the sum of $4,000.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none. Tom?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
Unanimous. All right,
Thank
Shane?
Yeah, so just that the project budget, I didn't put in the detailed one. There's been no changes to it. As you know, we just wrapped up the design development, so the documents have gone to the estimators. The draft estimates are due back on July 30th. We'll reconcile early the following week and come back to you on August 5th with the design development. So hopefully we'll be on budget with that construction number, but there's been no changes to the construction budget since we last reported out on that.
Shane, one quick question. When's there going to be a copy available for us to review?
It's in the community room right now. Chip, I sent an email today.
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, so there's a hard
There
copy.
now?
There's a hard copy in the community room, and I sent a link to the electronic drawings as well.
Okay. Now, I assume spec is not there yet, right? Spec is only done on final design?
No, there is a DD spec. It's not,
Okay.
not a full specification, but it's a DD level specification. So copy that on the drawings at the public safety.
Okay. And is there any special way you want, or that the design team wants notes or comments back on that?
I attached a comment sheet with the email I sent today, Chip. So if you could, print that and write any comments, or just write it electronically and email it back to me. I'll put all of those together, put them on one document, and send them to the architect when everybody's gotten their comments back to me.
And when do you want those done by?
I asked for them by July 30th.
Okay, that's a date I can remember.
All right, any other questions on the budget? All right, next, Shane.
Just again, an update on the schedule. We talked a little bit last month, but we're going to hold the design schedule. So those DD estimates are being done right now. We'll come back to the committee if we schedule the next meeting on August 5th with design development estimates. The design team is continuing with the construction documents. They're going to roll right into them. Sometime later August, early September, we'll do another cost check or estimate, just a final one before we go to bid. We'll wrap up those construction documents mid-October, and then we'll bid October, November. I'm going to talk a little bit about pre-qualification and trade contractors in a minute. But this design schedule is as we reported before. We'll bid October, November. We'll have bids to present to the committee in mid-November. Hopefully give the construction manager a notice to proceed with, we talked about the shop drawing and submittal process, and then start construction sometime in March of 2022 when we've approved the materials and order the materials. And then Bond are putting together a detailed phasing plan that they'll present at an upcoming meeting.
Shane, can I ask a quick question about the schedule? Has anything changed on this compared to previous, like that we've seen of this? And last meeting we talked about possible construction starting later, right? Then is that accounted for in here?
So that's the notice to proceed here, Philip, is the construction notice to proceed. Sometime in November, we'll award contracts to Bond to allow them to sign up the subcontractors, start that shop drawing submittal process so we can order long lead materials and have them ready to go when we give Bond a notice to proceed with construction in November, or sorry, in March, as we spoke about last month. So we have that bit of time between bidding and actual construction starting to order materials and get them delivered.
And so November 18th is the goal, to have a contract signed with someone?
It is, yeah. So that hasn't changed. We've just, instead of starting construction in December, it's now pushed out to March to allow us time to order long lead materials.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions regarding the schedule? Okay.
So just a new topic. Some of you might be familiar with the file trade contractors or the trade contractors. Under Mass General Law, there's 18 contractors under the trade contract laws. I've listed them out here. I've highlighted the ones I think that will be applicable to our project. You can see the terrazzo marble elevators and lath and plastering won't be. If the value of the trades is over $25,000, we have to bid these trades separately. And to pre-qualified trade contractors. So what we'd like to do is start the pre-qualification sometime in November, or sorry, sometime in August, so we can bid it in November. It's a two-step process. These contractors, a little bit similar to what we just went through with the architects, they submit their qualifications to a pre-qualification committee. We review those. Unlike the designers we just talked about, this is a pass or fail. There's a set criteria and a scoring matrix that we use. If a contractor gets over 70 points based on the criteria, he will be allowed bid on the project. If he gets below 70 points, he will not be allowed bid on the project. So we'll take care of that. We'll do that RFP. We'll go through that with the committee. It's pretty straightforward. We have a score sheet. We pretty much just put the values in, and it'll spit out who should be pre-qualified and who should not be pre-qualified. Once we get those qualifications, anyone who's pre-qualified gets to go to step 2. Step 2 is actually bidding the project. So if you haven't been pre-qualified in step 1, you will not be allowed to bid on the project in step 2. The big advantage of this pre-qualification is we'll know ahead of time what the interest in the project is. We'll know who's going to bid on it. Although if you're pre-qualified, you're not required to bid, but anybody who pre-qualifies, we would expect them to bid on the project. It will also give us a little bit more time if we don't have enough interest to go back out a second time to get additional subcontractors. If we didn't pre-qualify and we bid the project as we're scheduled in October, November, and we didn't get the required number of bids, that could push the project out another 4 to 6 weeks because we would have to rebid it in November. So this pre-qualification will give us a heads up of who's interested, who's qualified to actually bid on the project, and they'll be ready to bid, and hopefully they'll be willing to bid come October when the bid documents are ready.
So Shane, I'm a little confused I apologize, and maybe I'm not following the timeline correctly, but the committee is made up of a member of the CM at risk firm, right?
Correct, yes.
We don't have that firm picked yet, are we, at that time?
Bond is the CM firm.
Wrong project, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Totally spaced out.
Yeah.
We've got too much going on.
So the committee, it's made up of the designer, representative of the CM firm, and 2 representatives of the awarding authority. I would say 100% of the time, one of those representatives of the awarding authority is the OPM. So I would be the representative, and I've already talked to David about this and Dario. So we would do a lot of the work. I've already started a draft request for qualifications. Once we get those qualifications in, ourselves and Bond will do a lot of the scoring and reference checks, and then it will be just one meeting to go through the list of who we recommend. As I said, it's more prescriptive. It's a pass fail. It's not a ranking. It's pass or fail. You're in or you're out. If you get a 70, it's as good as a 100 because you're allowed bid. If you get a 69, it's as bad as a 0 because you won't be allowed bid. We'll do all that work with Bond as part of that committee.
And is there any appeal process from people that don't hit the 70?
They do have the right to protest through the AG's office. I would say that I've seen protests on some bigger projects. I wouldn't expect any on this project, a project of this size. And when I have seen any protests, Chip, the AG usually sides with the awarding authority. As I said, it's prescriptive. We give everybody, we rank, or we score everybody based on the same criteria, give them the same scoring matrix.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if they don't get in, the AG tends to side with the awarding authority.
Sounds good.
Dane, regarding the representatives of the awarding authority, you
Yeah.
said that you, left field would be one, correct? And
Yeah.
is it limited to only two?
It's not. It's not, Joe, but as I said, ourselves and Bond will do a lot of the legwork. We'll do a lot of the reviews, and you know, as I said, we have a spreadsheet that we just pump the numbers into. If you wanted more than two, absolutely, but I wouldn't load up the committee. It's
You're basically saying there's no need to, it's not a popularity contest. It's a very clear cut. They get it, they don't.
It's a clear process, and then when we come to bid, the lowest bidder is awarded the project.
Right.
So
Okay.
And you'll be sharing that kind of the information and how many people have applied and all that stuff throughout, as you normally do, right?
I'll keep the entire committee up to date on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, because if we get comments from people that may know somebody, may know some firm, may know what some of their work, maybe, you know, I want to get the input from anybody and everybody.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good.
So we'll get that RFQ going sometime in August, and we'll be ready for bidding in October.
All right. Any other questions regarding this pre-qualification of trade contractors? I hear none. Ain't anything else?
That's it for tonight. As I said, the drawings are at the station. I sent out electronic copies. I've started to work with Lieutenant Rubelo on the furniture. We hit a bit of a hitch with the dispatch furniture. The company we were talking to last week came back and said they may not be able to do it. So I spoke to Lieutenant Rubelo today. We're going to reach out to some other companies, and hopefully we'll have time to get somebody on board for that. But we've started to look at the furniture, and hopefully we'll have an update on that sometime August, September.
They not do it because of the shape of the desks, or they're just too busy?
They said it's because of the shape of the desks, and then they came back and said, well, maybe we can do that shape, but it's a long lead and they're expensive. So we're going to reach out to some other companies, see what's available. Watson is the name of the company we've been talking to. They're the company I've used on pretty much every other public safety I've done. There is Right Line, and there's a couple of others that we're going to reach out. But it's custom furniture, so we want to make sure we get out ahead of it and we have time to get the right furniture and get it ordered and delivered on time.
And it has to be custom because of the size of the room, or there's just what's driving the custom part?
All of those dispatch desks are custom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're depending on what the department wants.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? Chief Sullivan, you have anything? Mike? I guess not.
I do not.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Craig, anything?
I do not. Thanks.
All right. All right, next meeting. When do we need to meet again?
So we expect to have reconciled estimates on by August 5th. So if we can schedule it for that evening, and we'll have gone through.
When are you getting the estimates?
We get those July 30th.
Oh, okay.
We're going to reconcile them on August 3rd. On Tuesday, and we'll be ready to come to the committee on Thursday, August 5th.
I would love to have an opportunity to look at them before we meet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because we get them that day and
Sure.
doesn't have a long time to look at them. So and if it doesn't affect the schedule, I'd like to go for the week after that. Plus, that would allow everybody to get their bills in for that month, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Or are these bills so simple that they have them done now for next month?
The bills can wait a week, Chip. That's not a problem.
All right, why don't we do the 12th then? And then on the 5th, send it out to everybody by the 5th.
Yep.
Everyone can get an in-depth, take a look at an in-depth on these estimates, because that's getting to be one of the main crux of the project here. All right.
Yep.
Is that all right with everyone? Okay. So the next meeting is August 12th, and I guess at that time we'll also know when's the school, the 3rd. What's the second meeting of the
17th?
So we'll know the short lists.
We'll know the firms to be interviewed then as well. Okay.
And I'm brain dead on this whole new process.
Wait a minute, are you just brain dead, or are you further?
I'm going to qualify it to be the
right,
process for the moment. Another week from now, it may be on another process.
All right.
But what happens August 3rd? I mean, what truly happens? I mean, how much input do we have, or do we just sit back and hope for the best?
Lynn, what do you think, Lynn?
And Shane, you guys have gone through it.
I will say that as of late in the past, if the 3 local representatives voted all together, they would take that into consideration. But as of late, MSBA really hasn't even factored in what the town may want. So it's all about spreading the work around to various.
Can we try to figure out if we have 2 or 3 firms that, how do we try to manipulate that a little bit so that we try to set, can you think what the MSBA is going to be thinking, or is it almost impossible?
Well, I know that I've heard that of the top 5 people on there, they all have similar capacities. So I don't know that capacity would be a leading factor in the choice there. I'll say that the 4 firms that Doug Lyons noted are probably ones that would rise to the top of selection. But I also will say that that they've been trying to get work to new people. And I know DLR has been trying to break in, and I know that Moody Nolan, they've been trying to get work to Moody Nolan as well. So, and those are for diversity reasons, I think. But it's been a little bit of a, the local people haven't had as much say over who gets selected as it has been in the past.
Yeah, I agree, but I think Doug's comments tonight, that's the kind of comments that the 3 representatives should go with. Let the other members of the designer selection panel know sort of who you're leaning towards before that vote takes place. They'll certainly take that into consideration. Will it sway the other 12, 13 members, whatever there is there? Perhaps not, but the 3 members need to make sure that they let the rest of the committee know who their favorite are, or who they're leaning towards.
And certainly if the 3 of them go in and they all vote differently, that's just going to open it up for MSBA to choose whoever they want.
But on August 3rd, you guys are having a meeting to get them to be like-minded, right?
We're not supposed to do that, but
but let's talk reality.
Reality. I think we're all local people here online now, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll certainly, we'll discuss, we'll walk through the the process a little more detailed with the folks. There is a meeting on next Tuesday. It's a different school. I'm going to send out the details to log into that. I would suggest that definitely the 3 representatives, and certainly Chip and Joe, I'll send you the details too, if you want to jump online and just see how the process goes ahead of our meeting on the 3rd. I think that would be a big advantage to
Okay.
the
that'd be
Wakefield
great.
and the Wakefield
Yeah, let's
representatives if
Send that
they've
to,
seen. Yeah,
send it to the whole committee if anybody else wants to.
Yep.
I mean, it's a Zoom thing, right?
it's Zoom, so people can log in.
Anybody
listen
can log
while
in
they're
and
working.
just
Yep.
listen to it. I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
But it is important to kind of see how the process works if you haven't been involved with it before.
All right, so the next meeting is August 12th. Anybody got anything else? How about a motion to adjourn?
Well, do we have anything from public, from DPW?
No,
Nada.
nada.
I move that we adjourn. Anybody feel free to second it.
Second.
Thank you, Phil. And just click leave meeting if you wish to adjourn, and we're out of here. Thanks a lot,
Thank
everybody.
you.